theyeshiva.net.
Pesachim Daf Daled Amud Aleph. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 lines from the bottom. The conclusion of the Gemarah till now was that if I am a landlord and you rent my house, say you rent my house in the winter, you rent my house in the spring, you rent my house before Pesach, even if you rent my house on the 13th day of Nisan, in the evening, before the evening, and you become the renter, you acquired the house according to the legalities, halachically, that you are now the legal renter, and you have the key, which Rashi says the key represents the acquisition that you are now the renter, or Tosfos says the key represents simply access. You should be able to get in. And the time of Dikas Chametz, you are the renter. The time of the Chiyuv of Dikas Chametz, you are the renter, and you have the key. So then, you, the renter, are mechuyev to do B'dikas Chametz. You have to check the Chametz and get rid of the Chametz and be mevatel the Chametz. Well, the Gemarah clearly says the key, so that they're not arguing about. The question is, what's the geder exactly? If, however, you become the renter, you get the key after the time of B'dikas Chametz, for example, Erev Pesach in the morning, so then who is mechuyev B'dikas Chametz? The masker, the landlord is mechuyev B'dikas Chametz. Why? Because during the time of B'dikas Chametz, whose house was it? It was my house. I own the house. There's no renter involved. The Chametz is also my Chametz, meaning, what do I mean my Chametz? I left the house. I was mafkir it. I'm not interested in it, as the Pesachim explain. But it used to be my Chametz. I'm the one who brought in the Chametz into the house. So it's my responsibility, and it's my house, and therefore I am the one who does the B'dika and Bittul, even though during Pesach, who's going to be living there? Who's going to be living there is the renter. Yeah. The renter is off the hook, although, as we said yesterday from the Shulchan Aruch Harav and many of the Poskim, that he should still do bittul. He should still do bittul. And even when the Seicher comes in earlier, the masker should do bittul. Because when the Seicher comes into the house, he's kinda... Right. 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 It's really, I quoted yesterday from Simon Tov Lamed Zayin in Shulchan Aruch. That's where these halachas are, right? Hilchas Pesach Tov Lamed Zayin. So the Mishnah Brura discusses this, quoting from the Shulchan Aruch Harav. The Balatanya, he says that because when the time of Dikas Chametz came, it was under the bailus of the masker, of the landlord, so therefore he has to be boidik the house, even though he knows that he's going to rent it out. Right? And la halacha, we say that even if the Seicher was already kind of the house, meaning he gave the full money for the rent, so he's actually he acquired the full rights. But if he didn't get the key yet, as Tosfos explains, he doesn't have access. I'm the landlord has to do the b'dika, even though I'm never going to come into the house. I'm not allowed to come into the house because I already gave you the rights to rent my house. And even though... so Rashi says that the key is the kinyan. Tosfos says that the key is for access, Pashat. Even if you made the kinyan, but you don't have access. If I didn't give you the key... Right, yeah. Kesef, shtar, or chazaka. Kesef, or shtar, a document, a deed is also good, a contract, or chazaka. Right. Even if he made Rosh Chodesh Nisan, a kinyan, even Purim. Right? But I say, okay, Erev Pesach, he'll come, I'll give you the key in the morning. So the night before, I'm the one who has to do B'dikas Chametz, even though I left the house already.
Does that mean he opened the door?
Yeah. Right. I left the house. I'm not going to eat the chametz. I'm not even going to be over on Bal Yimotzim in HaTorah, because when I left the house, I was mafkir the chametz. I'm not interested in the chametz there. I was miyaya shumin. I was mafkir it. Nonetheless, since the house is mine, the house is mine.
Access.
Yeah, And the guf habayis is mine. I'm the landlord. Even though you're the renter, I'm still the landlord. You could live there, but I'm the landlord. The chametz was also mine. It's chametz that I brought in, even though I was mafkir it, and the house is mine. And the time of Leil Yudala, that's the chiyuv of bdika, and it's still under my domain because the seicher can't go into it. Either he didn't acquire it as a renter yet, or he pasha doesn't have the key. So at this moment, who's mechuyev right now b'dikas chametz? When you're looking around, there's a chiyuv b'dikas chametz. The landlord is mechuyev. The seicher, moved in a few hours later, but that chiyuv never went away from me. So therefore, I'm mechuyev to do the b'dika. And therefore, as we said, when I finish doing the b'dika, I also do bittul after b'dika. We always do bittul as the landlord. However, we added, and that's the chiddush that's brought in Torah and Shulchan Aruch, that even the seicher should be mevatel the chametz in the house. Even the seicher, the renter, should do bittul of the chametz, even if he's going to come in to live there after Pesach. Why? Because since he acquired the house as a renter before Pesach, if you're going to rent it after Pesach, I don't care. But if you acquire the house as a renter before Pesach, so you're zoicha the chametz that the landlord left there because he was mafkir it. And now it's your house. Anything in that house, it's your rishus, it's your domain. So you're zoichet. So therefore, the fact that he was mevatalit, the landlord was mevatalit, doesn't help to be yoitze, yidei takanas chachamim, because the chachamim said you should taka be mevatal after the bdika, so he does that. But lepoyel, the chametz, becomes the soicher's chametz. So therefore, most of the poskim say that the soicher should also be mevatal the chametz. This is all of what? If he got the key later. But if he got the key before Leil Yudalit, so therefore, say he's the renter by b'dikas chametz. He acquired it as a renter and he has access to it. So therefore, he is the one who does b'dikas chametz. It's his house, even if he's going to move in later. But it's his house, you're the renter. I don't care when you move in. I don't care if you move in a month. It's basically your house. It's like your office. People rent out an office space, yeah? I don't do the b'dikas chametz. It's your office, you do b'dikas chametz. You have a key, you have access, you got to do b'dikas chametz. Even if you're not coming in Pesach, it's your responsibility. And then after the b'dika, of course, the seicher does bittul. And we said that even the masker, most poskim say, that even the masker should do bittul. Magen Avram brings, the Shulchan Aruch Harav says, even the masker, the landlord, should do bittul in that case, even though he left the house, because it's fart his chametz that he brought into the house.
The master completely cleans out all the chametz, then the socher takes over, even if can he rely on the master?
Yeah. We learned in the first Mishnah that a place where you don't bring in chametz doesn't need b'dika. So if it's a place that you completely cleaned out of chametz, so it's like a place you don't bring in chametz. Let's say you go into a new hotel room, right? And it has a chazaka, hotel room, that it's completely clean. The food that was left over from the previous person is not supposed to be there. We're talking about a hotel that has a good chazaka, right? So it's like a place that you don't bring in chametz. Let's say a person goes into a fresh house that was just built before Pesach. Yeah, you don't have to do b'dikas chametz. Makom shein machnesim by chametz. A place that you know there's no chametz there. Again, we don't know for sure, but we can assume there's no chametz there. Like places in the house where you don't bring in chametz, there's no chiyuv b'dikas chametz. We're talking here that there's an assumption that the house had chametz because somebody was living there. The landlord was living there, or somebody else was living there. So you have to do b'dikas chametz. Somebody has to do b'dikas chametz there. The question is, who has to do b'dikas chametz? Usually, it's obviously the owner of the house has to do b'dikas chametz, or the renter of the house. The problem here is that it's an ambiguous situation because the renting happened on Yudalad. So that's the issue. So if it happened before, there's no question who does b'dikas chametz, right? If it happened after, there's also no question who does b'dikas chametz. Huh? If you go to a hotel before Pesach, okay, so if you bring chametz into the hotel, for example, you put out 10 pieces of bread, or you bring other chametz, then you have to do b'dikas chametz. If I come into a hotel, Yud Gimel Nissen, yeah, this is a very practical thing. People come into a hotel, Yud Gimel Nissen, b'dikas chametz is going to be in 6 hours. If you bring in chametz, if it's mamish, there's no chametz there whatsoever, so there's no chametz. But if you bring in chametz there and you put out your 10 pieces of bread, this is your room. You're going to be living here a whole Pesach. You're renting it from the hotel. You do b'dikas chametz. You do b'dikas chametz. If there's no chametz there, you don't do b'dikas chametz because It's a makam shema. No, you do know. We always assume the whole b'dikas chametz is based on when we say makam shema ei machnisim by chametz. How do I know that my baby didn't go and crawl up into that closet? I don't know. But a kitchen, I can assume there's chametz. A dining room, I can assume there's chametz. A bedroom where children are, I assume there's chametz, unless it's a boot camp, a house that's a boot camp. You have such houses, but a place, an attic. Again, do we know for sure? We don't know for sure. Like the Ran said, we learned samcha Torah al hachazakas. If the landlord is a guy, so the whole inyan of chametz is not, the whole isser of chi of b'dika is not shaykh to him. So that's completely fine.
Next morning you have to do it. If the masker said, I cleaned, he said, I cleaned the house, can you trust that?
If there's an assumption that there's chametz there, then you have to get rid of the chametz. You're saying you walk in and it's full of chametz and you're kind of all the chametz because he left it. So then you're responsible. You can't blame, then it doesn't know with him anymore. That's a very good point. Even if he left, you're saying a week ago, because you're kind of the chametz and now it's yours. You say the night of Dikkas chametz, I wasn't there, so who are you going to put it on him? He's not mechuyev of Dikkas chametz just because, just because you're Jewish and you moved in Erev Pesach in the morning. It's not his problem. He's a Gentile. He's not mechuyev of Dikkas chametz. So then it's completely your responsibility. Here, you're shouldering responsibility with somebody else because that guy is at the house. Put it this way, if you weren't around, he was mechuyev completely in Dikkas chametz. It's his chametz, it's his house. Because it became your house before the time of Dikka, through the mafteach and through the kinyan, so therefore the chiyuv goes over to you and not to him, even though you moved in, or you didn't even move in, you got the key an hour before. And you could say this is completely not fair because this guy is the one who stuffed this house with chametz a whole year.
If you're in a hotel and I don't know how these hotels work recently, but they come in and clean during Pesach and they're stuffed with chametz. They've got
Yeah. Yeah. Right, yeah, we're going to learn soon. We're going to learn soon in the Gemarah that the Isser chametz is only on your chametz. If somebody has in their house chametz of a Gentile, that's fine. I mean,
I was thinking I'm not, because she's making the bed, she's cleaning the room, that's part of the...
but she's not chametz.
No, but not her. I'm not saying that point. I'm saying she comes into the room and she's got her lunch, her ham sandwich. In her pocket.
That's fine. That's
So
fine.
even though you're benefiting from her work, it doesn't matter.
Yes, yes. You're not benefiting from the ham sandwich.
That's too indirect.
100%, yeah. She may be carrying chametz, but you're not benefiting from the chametz. You do remind me, I think I told you the anecdote, no? About the Slonim Rav, Rabbi Isaac Charif. There was a Rav of Slonim. His name was Rabbi Isaac Charif. So Erev Pesach in the morning, he was very sharp. They called him Rabbi Isaac Charif, sharp. But his wife was even sharper as usual. So she asked him if he got rid of his chametz already. If he burnt it. So he said, yeah, but there's one piece of chametz that he already has 35 years in the house, and he can't get rid of it. So she told me, you don't have to worry. That chametz 35 years ago, my father sold to a goy gomer, to a complete guy, so I'm good. Yeah. Okay, so this is all the discussion of the masker and the seicher on Yom Yud Dalet. Just obviously, this is only if the seicher rented it before the Zman of B'dikas Chametz, right? He rented it before the Zman of B'dikas Chametz. When the Zman of B'dikas Chametz comes in, it's his house. It's like my office, my house, like anybody who rents a house by the time of B'dikas Chametz. But if you're talking about a situation where he was not kaina it till after Leil Yud Dalet, okay? So by Leil Yud Dalet it wasn't kanoi to him, then of course the b'dika is on the chiyuv b'dika is on the masker. Just something that's obvious, but it's brought in halacha, so it's kedai to say, this is all a situation of rental. The Gemarah could have asked the question, what if you sell a house? What if I sell you a house the night of B'dikas Chametz? What about then? The answer is, if somebody sells a house and he leaves, the seller leaves the house and he locks the house, and the buyer purchased the house and owns it before Leil Yud Dalet, before Leil Yud Dalet, so then the chayvus b'dika is not on the moicher. The chayvus b'dika is, of course, on who? On the leikeach, and he is mechuyev to be boidik and to be mevatel, even though he got the key after Knisas Leil Yudalit, he got the key later. He has to give him the key, of course, it's his house. But here, when Dikas Chametz came, who owned the house completely? In the case of the maskir, I really own the house. You just have a right to live there. And it's my chametz. But here, even though I brought in the chametz, because I lived there a whole year till I sold it, but since you completely own the house, so therefore, it's not like by rental. By rental, with a guf habayis is mine, the bayis itself is mine, so then I'm a chuyev. But when I sell the house, so the whole house is completely yours, and I have absolutely no relationship to it, once the deed was signed, or once the sale happened, it's completely out of my rishus. It has nothing to do with me. It used to be my house. So maybe technically you don't have the key yet. Here, the poskim say that the loikeach, the buyer, is mechuyev b'dikas chametz, and of course he has to be mevatel the chametz, and the moicher, as we say, has to do bittel. The moicher, we say, does bittel. Right. Yeah, but fart, it's mamish his, so get the key. If I don't have a key to my house, am I mechuyev b'dikas chametz? Sorry, I don't have a key. Got the key. You understand what I'm saying? It's completely mine. There's no shaykhs to you. Yesterday was yours. It was completely yours. But we sold it on Yud Gimel Nisan. Of course, if you sell it Erev Pesach, not. If you sell it Erev Pesach in the morning, the night of Dikas Chametz, it was mine. Then I'm completely mechuyev. All right? Even...
Why is he making this? Okay.
The bittul is simply to formalize in a concrete way that he's mafkir it. Just verbally. You take a left the house, so in your mind you're usually mafkir it. But let's say you have an expensive bottle of mashka somewhere, and when the renter says, hey, do you really want to leave this? Say, no, I forgot to have it, right? So that chametz is your chametz. So we do the bittul to officially to relinquish all relationship with the chametz.
So did you say on a sale the morning of Yud Dalet, that even though it closes and it files, that the moicher is still got a... He's a lawyer. He still has to do the week at night? Did I understand that right? Even he's cut off all ownership.
The owner doesn't have to do bdika. The buyer of the house, if he bought it before the time of Dikas Chametz, has to do everything.
So it wasn't the cycle. I thought you said if it doesn't close until the day of Yud Dalet.
Oh, if the closing, well, what we call closing in halacha, let's call it acquisition, will be clearer. Then, of course, the owner is mechuyev and everything.
And the owner still, because it's the 14th.
Because he had a chiyuv the night before. Right. I was talking about the kinyan was Yud Gimel.
You're saying the former owner?
Yes. The buyer is then mechuyev to do b'dikas chametz in the night. Yeah, that's it. I'm just clarifying. But the moicher does bittul. The moicher also does bittul. Also does. Also.
So the sale happened the morning of the 14th. The former owner still has to do bittul. Is that what you're saying?
No. Then he has to do b'dika also. The sale happened Yudala, then it does not. Then the owner has to do everything.
That was my question.
Yeah. Then it's, of course. Right, yes, the seller. Now comes the next question. The next question is, Bo, my name is Reb Nachum bar Yitzchak. They asked the following question from Reb Nachum bar Yitzchak. Hamaskir bayis l'chavere bar ba'asar. If somebody rents a house to his friend on the 14th. Now that was how the question earlier also began. But in the first case, the question was, who has to be baidik? Why? I rent you the house on our ba'asar, yeah? And we know there was no b'dikas chametz. I said, I didn't do b'dika last night because I'm not going to live here. And you say, excuse me, I rented it today. You were supposed to do b'dikas chametz. So the question is on who the chiyuv is, and the answer was who had the key by the time of b'dikas chametz. Yeah, if the soicha had the key, it was his issue. If the masker had the key, it was his issue. But now the question is, I rent from you a house on our Basar. It's Erev Pesach in the afternoon. We land in Florida, and we come into your beautiful apartment on the ocean to be able to be there for Pesach. Okay? I want to have and now I walk into the house. The house looks, let's call it semi-clean. What's the question? The question is, cheskasei baduk or ein cheskasei baduk? Do we assume that there was already b'dikas chametz, or do we assume there was no b'dikas chametz? What's the question practically? Can I assume that the landlord is on er l'chayit, and therefore he already did b'dikas chametz, and therefore I have to do nothing? I could just prepare for the seder, or I can't make that assumption. Zokt Rashi, barba asar shachris. I rented it in the morning. Do we give him the benefit of the doubt? Do we say, do we assume? Meaning we assume that this man did the mitzvah and therefore I'm good to go, or he did not do, and I'm living here in a house where I'm koine all the chametz and I have to do b'dikas chametz. Agav Stam, we were discussing yesterday the lashon of the Gemarah, the two sides. If the masker has to be boyded because it's his chametz, or the soich has to be boyded because the isser is in his rishus. So some of you taish the vart is because he may come to eat it. But I think a more like Rashi, a more powerful vart would be b'rishusei koyesh Rashi says she'ata habayis shaloi. So therefore, that's how the Shulchan Aruch Harav says in Halacha, he was koine all the chametz because the bayis shaloi. So he's koine the chametz, so therefore, of course, he has to do b'dikas chametz. Or you say, excuse me, it's not fair. You bring in all the chametz, and now I have to do b'dikas chametz. You get rid of your chametz, yeah? You brought it in, you get rid of it. Or you say, you're right, but l'poyel mamish, it's my chametz now. Or you say, chamira dedeyu. He's the one who brought in all the chametz, even though he left the house, but it was his chametz. I think that's a very geschmacka way of defining the words of the Gemarah. I saw afterward the Shulchan Aruch Harav, and I think it's a very geschmacka way of defining the two questions in the Gemarah, the two sides. Chamira didei, like Rashi says, hachametz shebebayis shaloihu. So everyone teaches shaloihu, he owns it. No, shaloihu means it's his. He's the one who made the mess. Yeah. They say there was a rabbi, he was giving a sermon, and somebody was sleeping very loud. So the rabbi turned to the Gabbai, he says, "Do me a favor. Wake him up." He says, "Listen, you put him to sleep, you wake him up. I'm not responsible. You brought in the chametz. It's your chametz in the sense, not shaloi as in halachically shaloi. Not shaloi halachically, it's not as he left the house. He was mayayish, he's mafkid. Anybody can come take it. There's no din bailas here. Shaloi who means it's his, as we say, it's his chametz. He's the one who brought in the chametz. It doesn't have to do with the soicher, but L'Poyel, the soicher, owns the house now. He owns whatever is in the house that you left as hefker as his, because he has rights to the house now. Nobody else does. He's the one who has rights in the house. When you leave things for a renter to use, right? If it's things you were mafker completely, he has a right to it, and it's in his house. Something that comes into my house is automatically mine because a bias is kaina. So a mela, that's the tutz dadim. The question now is, when I move into this house, do I assume you did dikas chametz or not? This was the question what they asked. As we would say, pick up a telephone or send a text and ask him. I don't understand. You come in Florida, dikas chametz in the afternoon, Erev Pesach, there's 2 hours left of the Seder, call the guy and ask him, did you do dikas chametz or not? If he did dikas chametz, good. If he didn't do b'dikas chametz, you'll have tainus to him. You'll bring him to Adon Torah, but you'll do b'dikas chametz. I mean, what are you asking Reb Nachman Yitzchak? Find out. It says before telephone times, but l'shaili means go ask him in person. That's the question. Zog the Gemarah, the less l'shiyolei. We of course understand that if he's here, you can ask him. What happens if he left the city? He skipped town. He's not here, so he's not here to ask. Rashi says, ask him in Bat Koyim Lav. And for the Gemarah, he's not present, he's not available. So the question is, do we halachically say that the renter has to go through the burden? It's not an easy thing to do, because chametz is an avodah. Do we have to put him through the ringer of B'dikas Chametz misafek, as a doubt, what would be the halacha? Yes or no? Well, you could say, maybe, Sveika de Rabbanan, it's a mitzvah de Rabbanan, it's a suffix, right? Because you could be Mavatal the Chametz, so maybe L'kola, I don't have to do it. Maybe there was no B'dikas Chametz, fine, but maybe there was B'dikas Chametz, it's 50-50, I don't know if the guy did B'dikas Chametz. That's the question of Rav Nachman Yitzchak. What's the assumption that we give a person, we're talking, of course, a person that we assume he did B'dikas Chametz. If you're renting a house from a person that you know didn't do B'dikas Chametz, then it's not a shaila. We're talking, it's like asking him. We're talking about a person who you could assume that there's B'dikas Chametz. Do I assume? Or I say maybe this guy was thinking, I'm not living here for Pesach, right? I'm out of here, so maybe let him do B'dikas Chametz.
So you don't say robe, right? Most people are going to clean that.
So that's going to be the discussion. How do we assume? What do we assume it to be halachically? You assume that they're doing all the mitzvahs. The question here is, because the man was leaving and is not going to stay in the house, can we assume that he did B'dikas Chametz or not?
No, I was asking about the concept of robe. That does not apply because you're dealing here with an answer. If it was just mum, we could take it on, right?
Yeah. Yes, correct. Yeah. No. A piece of chametz that's seen, of course, you just throw it out. You burn it. B'dikas chametz means searching for chametz, because it's not seen. How what? Anything that's in my house. You're saying, why would the renter be kind of the chametz, even though it's in his house? He's not interested in being kind of it, right? So b'meila, you're saying, since he's not interested, even if it's in my house, a kinyan has to be with das, with ratzon. And since he's completely not interested, why would he be kind of the chametz? Okay. If he comes in a few days before Pesach, that's not a question, because there may be something he is interested in, right? Even if we taina that the chametz never becomes his. In other words, it comes into the house, it's physically there, but since he doesn't have a ratzon to be kaina, so therefore it doesn't become his. So that would be similar, I think, to bittul. What is bittul? Bittul means that even if it's mine, I'm not interested in it, so I make it hefker, right? But we still do bdika. We still do bdika. So you're saying, because over there it became yours and you're being a mavatal. So therefore you also do bdika. Why do you do the bdika? Because shema yavi la'achla, you may come to eat it. But the Chachamim did not rely only on bittul. They also wanted there should be bdika. The fact that the chametz is in your house, yeah, and before Pesach, so before Pesach you have no opposition to chametz. So it could be that automatically there is a connection to you because it's before Pesach. So since it's before Pesach, so yeah, maybe this person, you're saying, if he consciously says, I don't want this chametz, so there's lechatchila no connection. But very often, or a day, let's say a day before Pesach, fine, but it's still before the Isser of chametz. So akoponim, there's a suffix that there's a psaninyan of kinyan, and just to say now I'm not interested in it wouldn't work. Just like bittul is not enough. So l'chayda, that's the suffix, but it's a good order. It's a good order. Yeah. If you do it for Bayirah Bayimatzeh, so then there's no problem for who? Why not? If he comes into the house, ain't a chanami, but midrabanan you have to do bdika. Well, we explained, what does Rashi mean? Does Rashi mean you have to do bdika in the case you didn't do bittul? Or Rashi means, the way Tosfos, we had to understand Rashi, and what did we explain in Rashi? At the end we explained there's different ways of explaining Rashi, but one of the big explanations in Rashi is that it's still Bayirah Bayimatzeh Midirabanan, because once the Chachamim said that you need bdika, they didn't only say you need bdika, they said that the bittul is not enough. In other words, it's like you didn't do bittul, so mainly you'll still be over on Bayirah Bayimatzeh Midirabanan. So if you don't do bdika, you'll be over on Bayirah Bayimatzeh Midirabanan, because they made that bittul should be ineffective. In other words, if you didn't do bdika, it's as though you didn't do bittul midrabanan. So therefore, you'll need bayira bayamatzim midrabanan. So that's why you would have to be baidik. So according to this, l'cha'oira, it's a good ha'ara you're saying, but because it came before Erev Pesach, before Chatzos, so it's not pshat he doesn't want. Lav dafka. You understand what I'm saying? Because now the chametz is a very welcoming commodity. Let's be practically. You come in Yud Beis Nissen and there's frozen pizza in the freezer. It's a good dinner for the kids. And then you have a problem, even though it's not yours, right? It's technically not yours. But Lapel Mamish, you have full rights to it. And the renting happened before this Mana Isser. So it's not so posher to say that he doesn't want. You know what I mean? If it's a nice shtickle kugel that my kids like, and it's not rotten, it's not fashimmeled, because the guy who left is a caterer, and he left nice food, or it's frozen, it's not so posher. So maybe I'm kind it. Once I'm kind it, I have to do everything. Right, so even if you don't know it's there, let's say it's in the back of a pantry. That's what bdika means. Bdika means you search in the drawers and you search in the pantries, you search in the freezer, you search in the cabinets, you search behind the couch, wherever things could be. Ein echanami, you're right. So this is the question now, back to our question, cheskase badak or ein cheskase badak. So he ask him. So the vart is that what? He's not here to ask him. Just to bavarim, what the Ran says, that when the Gemarah asks here, he says, L'shayle, ask him. Reb Nachem bar Yitzchak says, ask him. He didn't think that the people who asked him the question knew that they can ask. Obviously, they didn't know that you can ask. Obviously, they're talking about a case that you couldn't ask. So in conversation, it makes sense. But when the Gemara records it, obviously, Reb Nachem bar Yitzchak didn't realize that the person knows you can ask somebody. He's talking about a case where you couldn't ask. But the truth is, the Ran says a very geschmack avoid. It's not just a technical question. Go ask him. Go ask him. Yeah, I know that I can ask him. Reb Nachman, I know that. I'm talking about a case where I can't ask him, which is what he said. But the Ran says that it's really a halachic question. The halachic question is like this. Let's say the bias is becheskes baduk. As you said, he's a shomer Torah mitzvahs. It was his house last night. I didn't rent it yet, right? So he does b'dikas chametz. Let's say that's the conclusion. If we ever have a possibility to be mevarer something clearly, to ascertain something with clarity, we have to do it even if there's a chazaka. Wherever you could make something clear 100%, you don't rely on an assumption. Even though if you can't make it clear, you do rely on an assumption. So that's the vart. So the Gemara tain is as follows. Since you anyway have to ask halachically, why? Because wherever you could be mevarer something clearly, you have to, and you can't rely on the chazaka, so who cares if there's a chazaka or not? It wasn't just a technical question, go ask and figure out. They were asking an Inyan and Lumdis. You're now going to debate if it has a cheskes baduk or not, and I'm telling you, it's irrelevant, because even if it has a cheskes baduk, you still have to go ask, because wherever you could be mevarer something 100%, halachically, you have to be mevarer 100%. So therefore, the whole question of cheskase baduk or not becomes irrelevant, because l'shayle is not just a technical response, go ask. It's a din. You have to ask. It's a din. It's not just go ask. What are you making me crazy? It's a din you have to ask. So on this he said, you're right. I know it's a din you have to ask, but I'm talking about in a case where you can't follow that din because the guy is not here. So now we have to go back to chazaka. So let's understand chazaka. Okay. It's not, unless the guy has, I don't think a person should, it's a normal question. I mean, I don't think it's an offensive question. Huh? You would get offended if somebody asked you the question. I think it's a normal question. Amalu Reb Yitzchak responded to Nisuha. We learned it. We have a brisa. The brisa says, Hakal ne'manam al bir chametz. Everybody is believed on bir chametz. What do we mean? Everybody is believed to say that there was bir chametz. Hakol ne'emanim al bir chametz. Everybody could testify on your dalid that the chametz was destroyed. Afilu nashim, even women, afilu avadim, even slaves, afilu ktanim, even minors. In other words, the chiddush is people that usually are not kosher le'edus, as testimony, as witnesses in Bezdin. But everybody is believed to say there was bdikas chametz and bir chametz. Anybody could say. No, a minor, a child. Yeah, obviously, yeah. Avadim Knanim, right? Avadim Knanim. Gentile slaves who were bought by Jewish families, and they go through, a semi-process of conversion. Usually we don't accept them for Edus, but here they are accepted. Frek the Gemarah, my time and mehemni. Reb Nachman says, why are they believed? If they're usually pasal Edus. So even if they come and say that there was bir chametz, why do we accept the Edus? Now, as we'll soon see, this has to be clarified, because as we'll see soon, we believe noshim in anything that they can do, anything that they have the capability of doing. We believe them. So we'll soon see exactly what this chiddush is, my time and mehemni. But the question here is, my time and mehemni, why are they believed l'chayre? They're not kashalei. This lav, the answer is mishum dechaskasei baduk, because we assume that the house is baduk. Zakt Rashi. Ne'manan al bir chametz lahoyed bar basa shabatko bailav emesh. They could be made that yesterday there was bdikas chametz. My time and ne'manan halav bnei asudininu. They're not usually kashaleidas. Lav mishum de belav amir didhu nami mechaskin and leibaduk. It's because even without their testimony, we would assume that the house is checked. The vadel yavers al divrei chachamim. Certainly, this man did not transgress the words of the Chacham. And even if in other things he's considered an Amaritz, and Amaritz means Jews who were not meticulous in all of Torah and mitzvahs, when it comes to bdikas chametz, every Jew is considered a chaver. Chaver means somebody who is meticulous in the observance of mitzvahs. Amaritz means somebody who is not meticulous. Chaver means somebody who is meticulous. When it comes to bdikas chametz, we say every person is a chaver. The hakol's risen. Everyone is zealous about bdikas chametz. Somehow chametz has been entrenched in the Jewish psyche that people are zealous, and therefore the kasavar, this Tana holds, hakol chaverim heim eitzel bdikas chametz. Rashi, the kasavar haitana hakol chaverim eitzel bdika afilu amaretz ubedavar shehu muchzak chaver machzakinan le shalei over zmanei ad sha'asauhu. And in any mitzvah where we consider a Jew to be zealous, we also assume that he did it in the right time. Not only that he did it, but that the deadline didn't pass until he did it. That means if I come into the house Erev Pesach in the morning, I can assume, based on this brisa, that it was bdikas chametz. Why? You believe a minor that there was bdikas chametz. Why do you believe a minor? L'chayda we say he's not kashalei. This, and the answer is because we don't really need his testimony. Why don't we need his testimony? Because we assume that there was bdikas chametz even without his testimony, right? So we don't need his testimony, so therefore his edus is not so substantial, and therefore we could trust the cotton. So what do we see from this brisa? That we assume that every single Jew is a chaver, is meticulous when it comes to the mitzvah of bdikas chametz. And if he's a chaver, it also means he did it in the right time. So if I come into the house Erev Pesach in the morning, I could have a chazakah that it's bothered. This is Reb Nachman bar Yitzchak's response to the question, and I don't have to ask. So even if the person is not here, and I can't ask, I don't have to ask. Huh? The word chaver was the expression that the Gemarah used to use for people who were very meticulous in Torah and mitzvahs. He's going to describe. You'll see now. Yes, yes.
So why do we need, so now that you have something that's a presumed chazaka, and you need
You're asking a good question. So why do you b'chlal need the testimony? You're saying you believe the cotton because we assume it happened anyway. So you don't have to believe him. Don't even ask him. The answer is because we don't rely on a chazaka b'makom she'ef shel levarer, where you can ascertain for sure. You don't want to rely on a chazaka. So usually I would say go to the owner and grill him. In this case, we say this is enough. Ataza, usually yes. Ataza.
that little extra is how we revire the issue of the other chazaka.
Right. Yeah. Take a look in Tosfos, the top Tosfos, Lav Mishum de Cheskasei Baduk, you see? Tema, Maisal Kadaitach, What type of assumption is this? Really? If you're assuming that this is based on the fact that there's a chazaka that there was bdikas, then what do you need them for? The fact that you need them means that it's not so pashat. That's why you're relying on them. The Balabayis is in the city. He's here. So, even though we assume he did bdika, you have to ask him, he's in the city. So their testimony will suffice. There's a cotton there, and he says, oh yeah, I saw him do bdikas chametz. He was by the fire today. He was very busy with Yehiratzon. He got into a fight with the police. I saw him there. Yeah, it was good. That's why the child was there. Wherever there's fires, there's children. So the children were there, he was fighting with the police. So I don't have to now go to the other side of the city and walk 2 hours and find him and say there was bdikas chametz or not. Why? Because I could rely on the cotton. Why could I rely on the cotton? Because cheskasei badak. But Mela, what do we see from here? That cheskasei badak. And the Gemarah brings a source that when you have a chaver, he takes care of things immediately. He doesn't delay it. Tanya, we have a brayse, chaver, a chaver. Now again, the definition of a chaver classically was somebody who was meticulous in the halachas of tumah and tara, purity and impurity, which are very complex and were very common. But generally, it became already a more generic term for somebody who's meticulous in Torah and mitzvahs. The Am Haaretz is also from a Yid. He's also Yirei Shamayim. But because of ignorance, so therefore he's not so meticulous because he simply doesn't know. He just does things generally. He's simply not sensitive to details. So the chiddush here is that hakol chaverim eitzel b'dikas chametz. B'dikas chametz, every Jew has a gather of a chaver. Every Jew is considered a zealous scholar when it comes to b'dikas chametz. That's what this Tana assumes. And the reason he assumes is based on Jewish history. Since it happens once a year, since the negativity of chametz is entrenched in Jewish hearts, since Pesach is a precious mitzvah, he assumed the fact is hakol chaverim. The Tanya, we have a brayse, chaver shemes. If you have a chaver, somebody who you could completely trust that he gives all the trumas and maasros, all the tithings of the grain and the produce, and he dies, v'iniach megurim alei peres. He left a storage place, a drawer, or a room filled with fruits. We're not sure he already gave maaser. There's a lot to do. You have to give to the kohen, and you have to give to the Levi, and you have to give to the poor people, and you have to separate to go to Yerushalayim. There's a whole avoid. It depends on the year, but there's always truma and maaser rishon, and maaser sheni, maaser ani. Even if the fruits are 1 day old. What we mean 1 day old is not their fruits are not 1 day old. But it means is they just became a chuyev and maaser today because he finished the processing. The man passed away. We assume that they are fixed, meaning that he tithed, and therefore you're allowed to go and eat it. The man died. You can't ask him if he did it. And the pshat is, we assume if he's a chaver, he doesn't only do the right thing, he does it in the opportune time. He doesn't delay it. B'meila, we're using this as a premise that when somebody is a chaver, we don't only give them the benefit of the doubt that they did it, but they also did it when you have to do it, in the first opportunity. So he didn't delay b'dikas chametz. Obviously, if he was in the hospital, it wouldn't be an issue. We're talking about a situation that he was capable. Of course, if he couldn't, then we don't assume so. But he could have done it. Say it was that day, and then at night he went to bed, and whatever happened. But the circumstances allowed him. He wasn't deathly ill or in torture or taken away, and then you could trust the master. Then if you don't know, you don't know. But then of course not. Yeah, of course. The presumption is only if the presumption is... Same thing. Same presumption, yeah. Rashi, the Tanya, Chaver, Haneman ala Maises v'meis, v'niach megurim alei peres. Afilohim bnei yoimon. What do we mean? Shenismarchu hayoim. Nismarchu means smoothed out, because that is considered Gemar Malacha. When you have grain, after the processing, you put it in the silo, or wherever you put it, and you smooth it out. It's called miruach. You smooth out it's not stalks anymore, it's the kernels that you smooth out. That's called Gemar Malacha, and now you're mechuyev in trumas and maasros. So Rashi areim becheskes mesakonim the vaday lo yotzam mitachas yadoi ad shegamar kol mitzvasei. He didn't leave it alone till he finished. In other words, done. You finished the arbet. And when? On the night of B'dikas Chametz. So the Gemarah, excuse me, this doesn't seem to be a strong proof. Minmai. How do you know that this is a real answer for our question? Dilma shiny hachem mishum de kamri hani. Maybe really people are not chaverim for b'dikas chametz, and therefore when I come into a house erev Pesach, I can't assume that it was checked. You're telling me we believe a minor that there was b'dikas chametz? The answer is mishum de kamri hani, because they testify. They say we saw the b'dika, but if we have no testimony, then we can't assume it. So there's no proof. Reb Nachman bar Yitzchak's proof seems to be futile. So the Gemara says, no. Does the testimony of these individuals have substance? Generally, we don't accept them as edus. So you can't say that that the reason we're accepting it here is because of their testimony, because their testimony usually is invalid. Nonetheless, we say that the house doesn't need bdika, meaning we're not relying on their testimony, we're relying on chazaka. So the Gemara says, okay, elamai, so what do you want to say? The cheskase baduk, that we assume that there was bdika. So I have a question. Hi hakol na'amanim. Then why does the Brisa say, hakol na'amanim al bir chametz afilu nashim avadim uktanim, kol abatim b'cheskes bdukin bar ba'asar mibayilei. The precise description of the Brisa should have not been, we believe even a cotton for b'dikas chametz, because you're just explaining that you're not relying on his testimony. You're relying on what? On the chazaka. So the Brisa should have said differently. Kol habatim b'cheskes b'dukin bar ba'asar. On the 14th day, all homes are assumed to be baduk. The fact that the Brisa doesn't say that, the Brisa says what? We're relying on testimony. Yeah? Means that you're not trying to say that it's a chazaka, that all the houses are baduk. Elamai, okay, so let's go back to the other way. Mishum amir dahani. So it's because of their testimony. It's not because of the chazaka. Haloy amri hani, if they didn't testify, loy. We would not accept it. Tifshit minei, so now you could prove from this brisa the exact opposite. The ein cheskase baduk. So from this brisa you could prove that there's no chazaka of bdika. So the Gemara is saying, basically, what the Brisa tells us is we believe them. Why does the Brisa say we believe them instead of saying cheskase baduk? It's because it's not the cheskas baduk that does it. What is it? It's their testimony that does it. That's what does it. That's what the Brisa is teaching us. That means if there's no testimony, we wouldn't say there was b'dikas chametz, because ein cheskase baduk. So if the person is not here to ask, you have to assume that there's no cheskas baduk. Rashi, umimai. Umimai dahai de kataninem monin time mishum da kol chavedim etzel b'dika dilma eina meyaretz chavedim al kach v'time mishum de kamri hani anu re'inu shabatku, because we're relying on them. So the Gemara says no, you can't rely on them because their amira has no power. So you have to say, why do you rely on them? Because cheskase baduk. But then the Brisa is written wrong. Lizak Rashi, kol abatim b'cheskes b'dukim e'boyle lemisna v'loy havele lemisle ba'amira dahani. He should have not made it dependent on their saying it. Umakshinon. So the Gemara asks, Elamid tala ba'amira, since you're putting it on them, vaday ikelamedak, you could prove haloy amri loy. Imkein makame bayalach. What's the question? Tifshit mina the ein cheskase baduk. So actually, from this brisa, you should learn that you don't give it a chazaka b'dika. And for the Gemara, loy, no, loy lamei melach cheskase baduk. Really, you could say there's a chazaka of b'dika. This Bryce is talking about a situation where we can assume that he wasn't boidik. For example, we knew that he's overwhelmed with a tremendous stress, or we knew that he was traveling far away. We can assume that he was too busy not to be boidik. We can assume there was no b'dika. And these people come and say, don't make this assumption because we know that he was boidik. That's the issue. In other words, you can't prove from here that ein cheskase baduk, and we rely on them. Could be here we need them because naturally we would assume that there was no bdika, because of different situations that would cause us to assume that. We're talking about in a case where you have no reason to assume not. You just don't have a reason to assume yes, so we want to know what do you do. But here it could be that there was a reason to assume no, so therefore you need the testimony of these people. So the hachab ma'askin and the muchzaklon the loy badak v'kamri hani batkine ma'u the time loy lemni rabbanon. So I would say the rabbis would not believe them because they're not kosher leidis. Kamash malon. So the Brisa tells us that's not true. Kivan the b'dikas chametz the rabbanon, because the obligation of b'dikas chametz is only rabbinic. The midaraisa b'bittel ba'al masagile, because minatayra bittel is sufficient. Here is where the Gemarah establishes clearly that the whole b'dikas chametz is the rabbanon, because minatayra bittel is enough. This is the Gemarah that Tosfos quoted right in the beginning of Masechta, that bittul is enough minatayra. Heim nuhu rabbanon b'di rabbanon. Since the whole obligation is a rabbinic one, because bittul will already eliminate all of the biblical issues, so the rabbanon chose to believe the noshim, the avodim, and the ktanim in something that is only the rabbanon versus something that would be minatayra. Zok Rashi. We'll soon see. Yeah, minatayra. This is all minatayra. That's why you need the rabbanon. Atazai. If it was it's mashma. If it's something minatayra, the Torah gives credentials and criteria who could testify. But since the whole obligation is only a rabbinic one, so you don't need to deal with Torah. It's not a Torah level of obligation. It's only a rabbinic level of obligation. So the rabbanon could say, we're choosing to give credibility to this. Yes, yes. Minatayra, yeah. If it's a case where the bdika is minatayra, then nechanami. Nobody holds bdika is minatayra. Only if there was no bittul. But if there was bittul, it's midden. But if there was bittul, there's no bayira. Midayraisa bittul ba'al masagile. There's no bayira. You understand?
Again, the Rabbanim are calling out an exception.
Yes, yes, yes.
This is a gather of the Torah?
Yeah, yeah. Rashi, the previous Rashi we didn't finish. Umeshani, he answers, you can't prove. We saw he was stressed. Or he left in the middle of the day. He went on the road. So the Noshim, the Vanamatam say, we actually did Bdikas Chametz. We did it. He left, but we did Bdika. So you would think that what? You wouldn't believe them. So we say no, since minay Torah bittul is enough. Why is bittul enough? But bittul ba'alma. So Rashi says, "Tiksiv tashbisu v'loy ksiv tevaru." Because the pasuk says by Chametz in Parshas Boy Ach b'yom harishon tashbisu sa'or. It should have said a more direct word, which is sevaru. Sevaru means leva'er, to destroy, to exterminate, to get rid of. It says tashbisu. Tashbisu comes from the word Shabbos, right? Bayom hashvi tishbois, kivoy shavas vayinafash. What does it mean? It means to rest, to seize. Right? V'shafsa haaretz Shabbos l'Hashem. To withdraw. On the seventh year, the earth should. You don't destroy the earth. The earth rests. The earth ceases to do work. So Rashi says, the v'loy ksiv tevaru v'ashbasa the leiv i'ashbasa. So what is tashbisu? Tashbisu introduces a new type of getting rid of chametz. There's no physical extermination of the chametz. What is it? Tashbasa the leiv. It's an internal, like an emotional or mental experience. Tashbasa the leiv. What is that? We call that bittul. Inner nullification of chametz. As Rashi said on Amid Aleph, you masiach das and mashvile ka'afra. And that's called the chametz seizes. Even though it's here, it's in front of your eyes. But it's mushbas. Why is it mushbas? Because in your leiv, in your heart, you disengaged from this chametz. So this is called tashbisu, not tevaru. If we say tevaru, then you need to get rid of the chametz. Since it says tashbisu, Rashi says, what does tashbisu mean? Not that you have to physically get rid of the chametz, but you have to mentally disassociate yourself from chametz. And that's called hashbasa. The chametz is in a state of hashbasa, believe, because it happened believe. That's the chiddush of bittul. B'meila, the whole b'dikas chametz is only midirabbanon. So therefore the rabbanon believed hemnuhu rabbanon bidirabbanon. Rashi bidirabbanon, hemnuhu rabbanon b'chiyuva the lesser element rabbanon. Why? The heim itzrichu. They're the ones who require b'dik. The heim hitiru lismach ba'amirason shel elu. And they allowed to rely on their statement. They have a koyach to believe them in a situation that is not min haTorah. So do we have a proof that cheskasei baduk? Do we have a proof? No, there's no proof. The proof that Rabbi Yitzchak wanted to bring that everybody is neman on bir chametz, it could be it's a proof, but there's no proof. V'haraya, it doesn't say kol abatim mecheskas b'dukin. We're relying on them, and we can explain why we're relying on them. It's also not a proof that ain't cheskasei baduk, because it could be it's a proof that ain't cheskasei baduk, and you need them. Or it could be that over there was a situation where we know for sure there was no bdika, because he traveled. And therefore, we can't assume there was bdika. But it's their testimony that reverses our assumption. But in our situation, where you come into a regular house, I don't know, is it cheskas baduk or not? There's no clear raya from Reb Nachman bar Yitzchak's brisa. There's absolutely no raya, because that brisa could go both directions. You can interpret it as a proof that ain't cheskasei baduk, or you could say, no, really cheskasei baduk, but over there was different because we know for sure that l'cha'ira there was no bdika, and we need their testimony. And the reason we rely on their testimony is because the rabbis are the ones who said this whole obligation is our obligation. Min haTorah, there's absolutely no need. There's not going to be any isser here. So even if their testimony is wrong, there's no biblical issue, only a rabbinic issue, and therefore bdikas chametz.
Only the bar.
You could do only.
Beer.
Yeah. We'll soon see. Good question.
In our Florida case scenario, the guy owns a bunch of apartments.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely traveling, even if they owns it. You definitely need, like this pricing, you need kids or a brother, at least. Tell us that it's all.
Right? Yeah.
Why do you need we're talking, you said an Evan Tanani here?
Yeah.
So if he has a din like this, isn't that duplicate?
Okay, you're right. You're right. You're right.
We clip them together generally.
Yeah. 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 So what is Rashi saying? That if it would have said Tevaru, we would say you have to destroy chametz. Tashbisu introduces a new type of beer chametz, which is not physical. I don't have to destroy the chametz. What does it have to do? It has to cease to be. How? Not physically. How does it cease to be not physically? In my heart, in my mind. A very fascinating idea. In my mind, it ceases to be. Why? I look at it and I say, garbage, dust, valueless, I don't want you, I'm not interested in you, you mean nothing to me. It's a $3,000 bottle of mashke, that's for somebody else maybe. But for me, it's afar, it ceases to be. Just like Shabbos, I cease to work, I disengage from halacha, I physically go away from halacha. Here, the chametz ceases to be, not physically. Physically, it's here. Emotionally, mentally, I'm a siach das from the chametz. That's the concept of bittul, the way Rashi learns it. Right? And therefore, hemnu rabbanan b'dirabbanan. Now, let's just be mayor one thing here. And that is,
If you have an expensive bottle of liquor that's put away, it's closer, and that's one thing. But leave it for schmuck, piece of cake out. Say, I'm not going to touch that cake. I just put it out of my mind. I think they must have said something. You can't do that.
well, we're saying this is min haTorah. Min haTorah, bittul is enough. Midirabbanan, you need bdika and beer. Huh? The Ran explains, The Ran explains how bittul works on the Beis Amud Aleph, the process of bittul. That's how the Ran explains it. That really it's hefker. The reason it works is because Hashem made it hefker, so you just have to agree. But Rashi doesn't mention that. From Rashi, it seems that there's a chiddush that the Chazal saw in the word tashbisu. Tashbisu is a new method of getting rid of chametz. And the method is not a physical one. The method is a completely mental one, where the chametz is mushbas, it's bottle. The word bottle means it's nullified. It's not here, not because it's not here. It's here, and it looks good, and as you say, it looks geschmack, and robust, and even fresh. It's here, but it's still bottle. Why? Because in your mind, it's bottle. It's completely a subjective experience of your mind. For your mind, it's worthless. Why is it worthless? Because Pesach is coming, and the Rebbeinu Shalom said that this and you, Chametz and a Jew have no shaychus on Pesach. It's not for you to eat, it's not for you to benefit, it's not for you to be in the house. So therefore it says, no, it's not in the house. Either Torah says, Ba'yirah, Ba'al Yimotzi, you shouldn't see it, you shouldn't have it. And it's right here, I see it and I have it. You don't see it and you don't have it. What do you mean? You do? No, you don't. What do you mean? It's a piece of chametz. It's not chametz, it's offer. It's earth, it's dust. Such a chiddush. All from the word tashbisu, Rashi says. The word tashbisu taught the Chazal, should have said tevaru. That's why ach b'yom harishon tevaru. Sorry, get rid of. That's the word in Tanakh for destruction, for beer, for getting beer chametz, getting rid of chametz. That's what it is. Levayer means to get rid of. Right? We have in Parshas Mishpatim, shor v'abor v'amava v'hahever. An animal goes and consumes. Kisaver. It says when an animal goes and eats grass, eats fruits from somebody else's field, she's mevayer. She eats it up. She gets rid of it. It's not there anymore. It's in her stomach. Bi'arti HaKodesh min habayis means I eliminated physically, not spiritually. You can't say, in my mind, I'm giving the truma to the kohen. That doesn't work. You could start off like that, but then you have to physically get it over to the kohen. Bi'arti HaKodesh min habayis means physically I was mavayer it. Here it doesn't say that. So we prove that you don't need to do physical beer chametz. The chametz could stay there, and mentally beer chametz is fine, and that's the concept of bittul. What I want to say one ha'ara, and that is, all the Rishonim ask, it seems from here, the reason we rely on Noshim, Avodim, and Ktanim is because B'dikas Chametz is the Rabbanon. What if B'dikas Chametz would be Min HaTorah? It would seem that you cannot rely on their testimony of B'dikas Chametz. Says Tosfos, that's ridiculous. And I'll tell you why it's ridiculous. Some of you may go home now for breakfast. Those who don't have to go work are going to go home for breakfast. And if your wife is home and she says you want to have breakfast together, she may prepare a wonderful breakfast for you. The omelet with the cheese, with a nice coffee, with cucumbers and tomato, where many of you may be going now and heading to the breakfast that your wife is right now working on to prepare for you. But I have a question. Maybe she decided this morning to feed you bacon and eggs. Bacon and eggs. So you're looking at me like I'm crazy, but that's what Tosfos says. How do you know? When you're going to go home, you're going to ask your wife, is it kosher food? She'll say, what am I bought the food. Of course it's kosher food. So who are you relying on? Who runs a Jewish home? Who runs a Jewish home? A woman. Without a woman, there's a Jewish home. It's all mitzvahs min haTorah. Kashrus is min haTorah. The whole Jewish home is based on their edus. If we don't trust women in edus of mitzvahs, you could close shop with Judaism. Your Pesach is not a Pesach. Your Shabbos is not a Shabbos. A woman comes home from a mikveh. You don't trust. You're there. Everything you rely on them. All the halachas of nida, all the halachas of mikvah, halachas of taras mishpacha, all the halachas of kashrus and all mitzvahs. How do you know there's no tray for steak by dinner tonight? The answer is her testimony. It's all her edus. I bought. You don't even have to ask her. You don't even have to ask. The whole Jewish life is based on Jewish women. Suddenly, with saying b'dikas chametz, you could believe them. Why? Because it's Rabbanan, really. And things min haTorah, we don't believe them. Everything. It's not. You don't need two women. Every woman. There's the big shaila of the Rishonim here. Yeah. So some say it's only about Ktanim. The chiddush here is Ktanim. So I say Noshim and Avodim. No, the Ktanim is a different inyan. Ktanim is little children. They're takapasal edus for everything, even min haTorah. Here you'll believe a katan. We're not talking about a katan who's 2 years old, who is not so okay. We're talking about a katan who, somebody who has das. He's still a katan, so he's pasal edus. You're not going to believe him that somebody murdered and killed a person. But it says here Noshim v'Avodim, right? Noshim v'Avodim. If there's a real suffix, it's not kosher edus. If there's a real suffix, right?
Isn't it bringing out? Isn't it proving that there is a heskas of the Vika? That we just
Yeah, you eat challah Friday night. There's a mitzvah to be mafresh challah. Who do you trust if that mitzvah was done? Who do you trust? The wife. And that's a mitzvah min haTorah. Trumas Maestris. We don't have Trumas Maestris by us. But in the olden days, you sat down, you ate apples Friday night. She had to give Trumas. Who gave the Trumas Maestris? She did the Trumas Maestris. These are chiyuvim min haTorah. Even if she didn't do it, she's the one who was made of Neman. The whole Jewish house is run by a woman. Akaris Habayis. Very good. Very good. the Gemarah is schwer. So many of the Rishonim explain that actually Nashim and Avadim are believed obviously in anything that they can do, anything that the woman has a power to do, you trust her completely. Anything. The concept of a woman being puzzle, I'll explain it a little in my Yosis. Even though Raisa, yeah. Comes to Yanam of Mikveh, Yanam of Kashrus, anything that she has the koyach to do, she's completely reliable. People ask a question, a woman is puzzle la'edus, it seems like a strange thing. Well, you trust men more than women? You see that women lie more than men? It's a mad nazach. Right, of course. But what's even the Havana in that? Why wouldn't you believe a woman for edus? Yeah. It actually doesn't have to do with not trusting women. It's on the contrary. The way edus were treated in Bezdin was not very geschmack. Bezdin used to grill people non-stop. The Mishnah says, the Gemarah says, a Bezdin that killed somebody once in 70 years were called terrorists. That means any witness who came to testify, Mechalos Shabbos, Gili Arayis, what they used to do to those poor witnesses, you think you were washed off sometimes? But the way Bezdin used to deal, they would make them mishuga. First of all, they put them through the ringer. And they were very sensitive with this, that the Torah didn't want to put women in that situation because of that sensitivity. That's number one. The Edis were extremely, it was an Indian. It's not that you don't trust them that they lie. The concept of Edis is a concept that they left for the men to do, not for women to do. Here, well, halachically, yeah, halachically. It's also a certain process that you have to have. In today's world, these things are a little hard to understand. But it's, for a woman, it would compromise her dignity to be an aide. You schlep in Bezdin, they sit, they examine, they cross-examine, you're out there. You're out there on display in a very, very public fashion. So even though today's world, no one even notices this, but if you follow what happened recently with the Supreme Court Justice, and you saw how women were forced to violate their innate nature, you can appreciate all of this. We're not so sensitive to it anymore, because we're not sensitive to the kol kvuda bas melech pnima. Some people teach pnima means locked up in the house. Pnima doesn't mean locked up in the house. Pnima means a certain form of dignity and sensitivity that the Torah is very sensitive to. That a woman must be allowed to be able to protect and preserve. The whole institution of Edis is an institution that takes people out of their natural dignity. It's a war zone. And you don't send women into war zones. Men are much better with blood. They're much better with blood. Edis is a war zone. It's a war zone. It's argumentative. It's confrontational. There's a lot of cross-examination. So the Torah said they shouldn't do Edis. It doesn't have to do with challah in your house, or kashrus in your house, or mikveh in your house. Yeah. So many Rishonim say, of course you believe them at b'dikas chametz, because b'dikas chametz is something they can do. It's something that's forbidden with the house. Even Bezdin will believe them. The chiddush is ktanim. Ktanim. So nashim and avadim you believe by b'dikas chametz because they can do it. The chiddush is by ktanim because it's the rabbanon you'll believe even a katan, and that's already a big chiddush. That a katan who can make jokes and ktanim don't feel the responsibility. That's why we don't believe ktanim, not because they're essentially liars, because you just have to, you have to feel responsibility, just like you're not mechayev them in mitzvahs. The chiddush is by ktanim. Tosfos adds another reason. I'll just take a look and we'll finish with this. Tosfos adds another reason, and that has to do with the fact that real b'dikas chametz, and I guess maybe times after, I don't know if real b'dikas chametz is a tremendous, tremendous tircha. Again, by us, b'dikas chametz is a little bit of a different matzav. People start already weeks before, months before, and it's a whole matzav with vacuuming. B'dikas chametz classically was done in a small house, and you had to go into every single hole with a candle. And it was a tremendous, tremendous tircha. Tremendous tircha. So Tosfos says like this: anything that they can do, we believe them. So why shouldn't we believe them? So he says, the ma'asim b'chol yoyim shana ma'aminim le'isha ve'eved al hashchita v'al hanikur. Your grandmothers, when they got a chicken, what do you think they did? They went to the store and got a chicken. They did all the nikur. You know what nikur is, yeah? That to clean out from behemoths, from chickens, all the parts that are safe. This is all isur min haTorah. Women did this. How do you believe them? They say this is a kosher chicken. Maybe not. You have two edus? Ma'aseh b'chol yom, we rely. Tosfos means the whole kitchen is run by them. We pay the kamedi gabi machilas she'enim ma'user mashma sh'sayim chlalin yechalo ma'aser. Mikol makem gabi b'dikas chametz afal gav de biyadam, they can do it. Mikol makem I have medayraisa loy mem ninelu mishum de ike tirche yiseirsa v'tzorich diktuk gadol. Dikas chametz is a very difficult thing to do right. Again, we sell it to a guy, so we don't. We have a different. We have a lot of things easier. Real b'dikas chametz is tzarich tirche yisei. It's a tremendous tirche.
When did sales start? Historically, when did the sale?
We'll see later, but it started only in the 1500s, much later, and it started because Jews started to own a lot of chametz that they never owned. When they started to have inns and krechmas. Krechmas are like Motel 6s in Poland. Pubs, bars, and they owned huge quantities of leaven. So they had to find a way of dealing with it on Pesach, the times of the Bach and others in Poland. This happened in Eastern Europe. But in the days of the Shas, this whole thing didn't exist. You went and you did Dikas Chametz. And it needs a tremendous Tirchi Yisera. So you really have to be very, very meticulous. And this is where they were afraid that because in many situations the Nashim and the Avadim didn't have that type of education, and often that type of sensitivity, and they were overwhelmed with so many other needs that existed in day-to-day life. So by B'dikas Chametz, if it would have been Midayraisa, Tosfos says this is an exception because of how difficult it is, and therefore they wouldn't be Neman, because often they wouldn't see the meticulousness that's needed, and they'll say there was a B'dikas Chametz, and therefore they're not Neman, even though they could do it. You're saying today they're much more meticulous, It's interesting, right? Over a couple of months, right? In other words, it's a big pressure. It's a big pressure, so you can overlook things. I don't think it means that they're going to lie. We don't believe that women lie. It's a ridiculous thing when people think that. Men probably lie. I don't know more or less. White lies is probably they share the market equally. Real lies, I don't know. I'm not going to give statistics that I don't know about. It doesn't mean they're going to lie. It means that when you have a lot of pressure, right, you have to compromise. Say, yeah, there was B'dikas Chametz, it's fine. Say, when B'dikas Chametz, it's fine. Don't worry. And maybe they're less OCD also. Again, depends who. So I'll call upon him. That's what he says. That's the shit of Tosfos. So either you say the whole thing is talking about Ketanim, but B'dikas Chametz you would have believed them even min haTorah, or Tosfos time that B'dikas Chametz is an exception. That's what he brings from Yerushalmi. But I'll call upon him. What are we left with? We're left with a question that is l'cha'oida unresolved. Why is it unresolved? Because we can't prove if Cheskasei Baduk or not. Okay, since Chanukah I'm off. I'm not off. I'm away. So we're going to have a shir tomorrow because I want to finish this. I want to finish the sugya. The week of Chanukah. Yeah.
What is this?
This Monday? No. The following Tuesday. The day after Chanukah.
I'll ever write something about this debate.
We'll see. We'll summarize it tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to do three things. We're going to summarize the halacha. We're going to learn the argument of Tosfos with Rashi and Bittul. And we're going to learn a shtickle minchas chinuch. Be'ezer Hashem bli neder. Tomorrow 8:30. Have a wonderful day. Yeah. Tomorrow we're learning also the first shir and the second shir. Okay. Beautiful. Yeah. Tashrat. Tashrak is was. Kratzen, Reiben, Sharen. And Tov. Kashrak. So what's Kashrak? Kratzen. What did he say about the Chever? Kratzen, Sharen, Reiben, Keren. He said by Tkiyas, right? Kashrak.
doesn't like teaching.
How do you take it?
Maybe the women are not nemen am dikas chametz because they're cleaning a whole year. So it's chuf gevek dikas chametz. I'm doing dikas chametz a whole year. So suddenly you're going to come to dikas chametz. A lot of pressure. They do it a whole year. So they don't see the unique meticulousness. That's the mashmal.
The real particular comment that we could do is only because of them. If not,
Right.
we rely on them.
No, the house she could. I mean, yes. Yeah. Oh, you're right. You understood? Oh, amen. Amen.
In other words, even though she usually, because of her relationship, be puzzle, that is not something that they worry about.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to explain, it's not people think that fundamentally we don't believe women. That's why they're posel edus. Ktanim, it's because they're irresponsible. Yeah. Avodim, they come from a completely different culture, they're not sensitive. But Nashim...
The issue of the cross-examination, I never heard that. That's great.
Yes.
That's a complete explanation.
Yeah, it's a real explanation. It's a grueling scene. It's a war zone. It's a fight. And it compromises their dignity.
Some women are better inner fighters.
You're right, some women are sharper and smarter and wiser.
That wouldn't apply to a goita, though.
No, but Adis compromises a person's dignity in a way.
It really does. They tear you up and down.
They tear you up and down, and a woman somehow, there's a sacredness in a woman that needs to be preserved.
That example about the Kavanaugh hearing was a great example.
The Kavanaugh hearings, you saw
And
it.
they were paid to do to
Yeah, you
compromise
saw
their
it.
dignity. They're paid to do that.
When women are forced to compromise their dignity as a result of societal pressure, it's a travesty and a tragedy. Now, it's hard for people to even understand this today because it's such a politicized conversation. Oh, women are babies, right? We're babies.
We're trying to empower women by robbing
Yeah,
them of their
but you don't empower women when you rob them from their innate spiritual disposition. They innately have a spiritual disposition. It's like the concept of tznius. It's not robbing women from freedom to walk in the streets the way they want to.
It's the same idea.
It's an obligation that society owes to them and they owe to themselves to be able to have the right to preserve their purity and their dignity. And you see it practically. You see practically the difference of a teenage girl.
The society's bankrupt. That's why that
Yeah,
happens.
so I'm saying, so when people hear the words posela edus, they right away misconstrue it with male chauvinism and so forth. Yeah, they want to change. Somebody says they have to change the halacha. To change the halacha. This is the edus in bezdin. It doesn't mean posel edus doesn't mean that you don't trust a woman. It means the edus in bezdin that went through the whole b'dikas and chkiris, din nefashos, or including din nefashos. It was serious stuff. It was a war zone over there. They tore them apart 100,000 times. The Sanhedrin. They wouldn't kill anybody. Not to kill people. You know what you had to do to the edus? Even Kiddush HaChodesh, Rosh Chodesh, we learned what they used to do to them. To drive them crazy with astronomy, the poor women would end up sobbing over there in the Edus. Yeah, now people once asked me, I was once talking about it, somebody said, so if two women saw a murder, if two women saw a murder, and they come to the Bezdin and say, we saw the murder. So they're Pasal Edus. So people don't understand how it worked. When you say Pasal Edus, it means that Bezdin can't carry out the full penalty of death that Torah demands, because for this you have to have edus. But if Bezdin learned, let's say they found out somebody was a murderer not with edus, circumstantial evidence. You go into a room, a guy is dead, right? You saw somebody running out with a knife, yeah. You know the guy killed him, but there's no edus, so you're not going to murder him, but you're not going to let him roam the streets, right? If they feel that he's a danger to society, they're allowed to kill him, not according to the penalties. If they feel that he's a danger to society, they could lock him up. So all that applies equally if women testify. When we say pasal edus, it just means the edus of Torah that sanctions the full penalty of biblical penalties, that type of edus, they don't do. Because to get that Eidus, I'm explaining, it's a war zone in Bezdin, so you don't subject them to that. But if you only have women, you have 50 women who saw murder, they're going to take care of the situation. They're going to trust her. They're not going to say the women lied. Pasal Eidus doesn't have to do with lies.
It's not only at the Eidus that you see that the Torah mafred bein nashim, not mafred bein Eidus.
In a I'm just giving that. That's what we're talking about here. That's why anything that's beyond them that they can do, and it has to do with their territory, you believe them fully, even though if you don't trust them, why do you trust them on Isur Karis? Nid is an Isur Karis. Why do you trust them that the mikveh was kosher? Why do you trust them that the steak is kosher, that this chicken is kosher? I'm eating treif now. Don't trust them because they lie. People think Pasal Eidus means you can't trust women, they don't know, they don't care, they're this, they're that. Nothing to do. You trust, that's what Tosfos says, you trust them on everything. Yeah, Cheresh Shaita v'Katan is a different thing. A Shaita is an imbecile, a Cheresh is not coherent, and a Katan is a child. You know, children are children. There's a reason they're not mechuyev mitzvahs. Over there, it's taka a different word. And that's how many Rishonim touch this Gemarah. That it's only, the Chiddush is on Ktanim. Not Shemin Avadim you would believe anyway. Ktanim is a Chiddush because it's the Rabbanan, you say you could trust a child. Yeah.
They regain their das, they regain their hearing or sensibilities. They witness something when they're a Torah Shashata, and then they regain, they become healthy again. You still don't accept it.
You can't.
Because it's at the time that they perceive.
Yeah. The institution of Torah with women is a very sensitive institution. It's not there to repress women. It's there to help everybody live a full life according to their innate chemistry and character.
But do you believe her, for example, that when her husband died, do you believe?
Then you believe a woman.
So I'm saying that you would believe
A woman is believed to say.
that's another
Huh?
Mr.
It's also the rice.
That's another,
Also, big Dorais,
that's another
Mamzeris.
Mr.
Yeah. Christus, Mamzeris.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, so you would believe her, that famous case of Moshe?
Yeah. You believe her. You believe her. Over there, a cotton, you wouldn't. Okay.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.